You guys, welcome to another episode of Soft Rebellion. My name is Intat, and thank you so much for joining me. So, on Friday, I recorded an episode. It was about my dad. I had recorded on Saturday because it was his 60th birthday, and we're having a celebration gathering at home in the rural Eastern Cape, and obviously I wasn't invited. And the reason I'm not invited is because earlier this year we had a falling out, and I took to social media to express how upset I was that my dad has actually been capable of human, mature conversations all along. He just chose not to for his own reasons, But suddenly, now that he's reached retirement and I suppose dealing with immortality, he became a decent human, and had a conversation with me. He was sharing his concerns and fears going into retirement, which I thought, oh my goodness, I've always wanted this kind of interaction with him, but somehow it just wasn't something he was prepared to give. We would always talk surface level once in a while when we would talk. In any time you try to bring up something real, not necessarily confrontational, but just have a normal conversation with him, he'd just run. And so I recorded this episode and I thought, I don't want to air dirty laundry like that. Obviously, it wasn't airing of any dirty laundry, at least by my standards, because I'd never deliberately want to paint someone in a bad light. But I was just sharing my experiences with having an absent present dad, if that makes sense. He's alive, but he's not necessarily present in my life. He's never been present in my upbringing, even when I went to stay with him or be closer to him in terms of proximity, but I was still not involved, and none of that has changed. And part of the reason I got upset the last time was that, hey, this man gets to walk in and out of my life as and when he pleases. But every time he'd walk in, I'd almost raise my hopes, to think, oh, this time around is going to be different, this time around is actually going to stay and be a dad and. But as soon as I do that, there's going to be a disappointment. Like, he always disappoints me, So I was just tired of waiting and raising expectations, and I decided, hey, if he can choose to walk in and out, surely I can also choose to either have him or not in my life. I'm an adult now. I'm a grown-up. I'm not that helpless child I used to be, depending on him for my livelihood. And my mom, he didn't really provide much, although he assisted here and there later on. But for the most part, my mom took care of me, Okay, sorry, I was getting a call. Cat's out of the bag. I'm recording this whole podcast on my phone. But yeah, so I didn't have any intentions of sharing about this until right now, as I'm doom scrolling. I'm seeing this girl, she's getting married, and she's supposed to have her first, father-daughter dance. And instead of actually proceeding and dancing with her dad, she calls to her older sister who got married during COVID. And she's like, I'd like my sister to have this moment because she never got to dance with our dad during COVID. Everything was on lockdown and they had to maintain social distancing. And I got so emotional. Like, I'm just emotional just even thinking about this, because part of the reason I was recording that episode on Saturday was because a couple of friends of mine have lost their dads recently, and it's been the saddest thing to experience. But also, I've been envious because they at least get to be sad about their dad, and they have these beautiful memories to hold on to, The one girl, she recently got admitted into the Joburg bar, I think, I don't know, and she was celebrating her birthday. She's in a serious relationship with her partner, so she's probably going to get married soon. But every time she's got this beautiful milestone that she achieves, it's always sad because she gets to experience all of that without her dad being present. She's always saddened by just thinking how her dad would have supported her in that moment, how he would have loved on her and shown up for her. I'm like, I don't know what that's like. And I'll never know what that's like, I'll never know a dad who makes sacrifices for you, like who puts you first, who loves you so much that they want to be better for you. And I mean, this is not to expect any parent to be perfect. No one is. But just basic parent etiquette. There's something like that, But I think there's a level of responsibility that a parent assumes for their child, for their well-being, to, caregiving, which I never really got to experience. And I suppose I was thinking about it in the sense that if my dad were to pass on, what are those memories that I'm going to hold on to say, no matter what, I know my dad loved me, And I really couldn't think of any. And I suppose that's my experience as someone who has a present absent dad, or who's had an absent dad. We get to mourn the experiences we never got, and maybe our grief looks different. It doesn't look like kids who've had their dads, and being saddened by the fact that their dads get to miss those experiences. Our mourning looks like, I don't know, just a void of never having had those memories to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to hold on to. And I suppose to a certain extent, that in itself is a kindness, right? Because you don't have anything to compare it to other than, the experiences you see on the outside from other kids with their parents, or with their dad. Like, I can't say I'm sad. I get to enjoy my milestones without being sad that there's someone missing, that there's someone who's not a part of that somehow it's not complete. And I suppose it's both a curse and a blessing, because in part I'm saved from experiencing that pain, but I suppose also I'm at a loss for never having experienced that kind of love, They talk about how grief is love that's been misplaced. You can no longer show that love towards anyone or express it in any way because the object of your love is gone. And now I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if it means I don't love my dad because he was never present, or the manner in which I love him is different. Like, it's not based on any substantial evidence or action. Like, I don't know. I'm just so confused because love is also supposed to be a verb, right? Like, love is supposed to be an action, the thing a person does to show their love. Otherwise, is it really true then? Is it real if they don't action it? Because I could always assume that my dad loves me, loves all of us with his kids. But if he doesn't act in a particular way to demonstrate that love, does he really do it? Like, does he really love us then? And I suppose then if he's absent from my life, can I still claim to love him when I'm not able to action that love? Or does that mean I do have the love, but I've just been grieving the entire time? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I've really been thinking about that, and I'm not catastrophizing this whole situation or even wishing, death upon my dad. On the contrary, like, I would love to see him live long enough to, see his many grandchildren. Not that I intend to have kids anytime soon. Well, I will get a dog, so maybe he'll be a grandfather to my dog, I don't know. But yeah, like, I really do wish him well, but I do find myself also thinking about what that experience will be like when he passes. Will it be pretentious when I post him and say, oh, I'm so saddened by the loss of my dad, and what memories do I even draw from to celebrate the life that he would have lived. When kids give, when they give not a eulogy, but like I don't know, a message, a goodbye message, and they talk about their dad, like I probably wouldn't be a good idea to place me on the podium to say something, because I wouldn't be able to lie, but also I don't know what I would say. People always say the nicest things, and I neither have something nice nor bad to say. All I know is that he was an absent dad. He's present, but he was absent in every way that mattered. So yeah, but I'll tell you something. I mean, I never really thought that I had daddy issues, and I'd like to still think that I don't. But there is something that happens to you when your parent deliberately chooses to ignore you. When you're not good enough for them to live for you, type situation. To be present, to choose you. The sense of abandonment that you feel. And I suppose I've tried to compensate for that in so many relationships, to a point where in the past there would be friends who treated me poorly, but I'd still stay, because the idea of losing someone, like the idea, not just in death, but goodbyes, for instance, are so hard for me. I had a friend of mine live with me for 2 months. It was supposed to be 3 months. And sure, I was happy to have my space back, right? But also, I really loved having her around, and we really got along, and we had our own little routine. And I suppose it's because I love habits as well. Like, I'm such a creature of habit. So if we had already established a routine, I was so accustomed to that, and there were so many things I was working on within myself to better and to improve being a partner that someone could live with ease. Things I always struggled with in the past. I fuss about the small things, and I mean, that's not good. So when she woke up in jail like a week before, and she was like, oh, I'm leaving, and she started packing, it was almost like it's a joke, and I'm like, oh, this girl must calm down. Like, she still has another month. On a random Wednesday morning, everything is packed, and like she's vamoosing out of my house, and I'm like, hey, what is this, And I didn't even know how to deal with that, and I was just like, oh, I don't have time for that. Like, I was just so emotional, and I'm like, I'm going to work, ma'am. Like, I don't have time to deal with this right now. So I think that was just one example of how difficult letting go was, or feeling a sense of abandonment, even though as an adult that, hey, people have to live at their own houses, or someone is not abandoning you necessarily, but it doesn't make the goodbyes any easy, so I don't know. And I think part of the reason I've been grappling with this as well is because I've been feeling so much guilt about the absent relationship between my dad and I. And I'm like, as adults, the most prudent thing to do is make amends, right? And try to work on this relationship. But that just sounded like another ploy for me to be disappointed about, especially if the effort is one-sided. And I've done that, right? Like, I know what the outcome is. But I always think, yes, I get it, but like, wouldn't it be nice to have all these fond memories to hold on to, like something? And I'm just like, I don't have it. Yes, maybe there have been like, 1 or 2 moments that I can think back to, but those aren't moments that are specifically me. And I see the role my stepmom played in facilitating some of the bonding sessions we had with my dad, though they were few and far apart, right? But it wasn't a deliberate effort by him to instigate that. I don't know. And I also don't want to gaslight myself and blame everything to the generation in which he comes from. Like, I think if anything, the call that we had, which eventually led to our falling out, was proof to me, evidence, in fact, that he is capable of this kind of relationship. But I suppose he just isn't interested in cultivating that. So yeah, I don't know. How's your guys' experience with present absent dads? You know? I don't know. But yeah, this is my story. And I don't have a moment of rebellion after this. I suppose it's just letting things be and, you know, I don't know, yeah. Dealing with that grief, I suppose, of knowing that someone didn't choose you. Your own parent didn't choose you. They don't still, because it's an active decision while they're still alive, you know. And I suppose I'm also making my own decision then to say, I'm also choosing not to let you in my life, you know, to be okay with the fact that our relationship doesn't exist. And I have to deal with my own regrets and consequences of my own decisions at whatever stage, you know, that I have to grapple with my own decision making. Because I suppose now my dad is dealing with the decisions he's made all his life and when I was younger. But now that I also have agency and I'm exercising that, I've made my decision, and so I'll lie on it when the time comes for my reckoning, you know. And I suppose this is his reckoning as well. And I was feeling bad about the fact that I'm sharing about this publicly, which is why I didn't want to post the initial video, right? Not video, but the podcast episode, because I thought it must be very difficult to hear about yourself from someone else like this, especially if they share on a public platform. I shared on TikTok and he got wind of those videos. That was really difficult for him, I imagine. And he said to my mom, yo, uzendacho ndiyamoyika, like, I'm scared of Zendacho. And I suppose he didn't know this side of me, but I can't be that silent kid anymore who dies inside for the sake of maintaining peace at my own expense, you know. This is my healing. This is my way of processing. It's just unfortunate that it's public and there has to be some audience. But I suppose that's his reckoning, and I'll deal with mine when it comes for me. Should I regret having put this out there, you know, that's a decision I would have made, and one that I'm prepared to deal with, negative or otherwise. So, yeah, we all make our decisions, and we just need to be able to handle the consequences of those decisions. And yeah, this is my story. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate every download, every listen, every share. Please like and follow this podcast if you have been enjoying, you know, the content on these episodes. And don't forget to leave a review as well. It really does help with ratings. And I am intent on growing this podcast and getting it exposed to a lot. I do have ads as well now. I'm quite excited about that, and hopefully I'll get to generate some ad revenue. Small as it is, right now I'm at 30 cents. Can you believe it? It's still such a big achievement for me. Like, I'm so excited. But yeah, I don't take any of you guys lightly. So thank you for joining. I'll see you at the next episode. Bye.